Greetings, everyone. This is Professor Jeff Wilkerson at Luther College, talking to you once again about what to look for in the night sky, this time for the week of February 8th. But I'm actually going to recommend, as I often do, that you track the sky over the next several weeks and pay attention to what's happening, what changes are happening for a few weeks. And we'll circle back to this topic then, hopefully in a few weeks. We're going to talk about Mars. It was just 3 weeks ago that I suggested to you that you look at the really very nice conjunction of Mars and Uranus. And Mars has moved so far from Uranus now, you'll probably have a hard time finding Uranus in your binoculars. But if you go back, you can try to do that sweep. Mars is almost halfway between Uranus and the Pleiades star cluster in Taurus. We've talked about the Pleiades before. It's an open star cluster. 100 stars or so in it. You'll see 6 or 7 of them with your naked eye, several more with binoculars. If you look at that, it looks like a little bit of a fuzzy patch, but you can make out the individual stars if you look at that. Mars is tracking this direction. Okay, Mars is headed from Uranus over here toward the Pleiades, and it's making good time. In 3 weeks, it's covered almost half that distance, not quite half that distance. Little trick, if you want to know the angular separation of things, you hold your finger out at arm's length, and that's about a degree. Okay, that angle right there is about a degree. Your fist then is more or less 10 degrees. My guess is if you go out this next week and you measure the distance between Mars is the brightest object in the south. It's red, so you got a big bright red glowing Mars in the south. You should be able to see the Pleiades as a nice fuzzy object without your binoculars and start to be able to pick out the individual stars. My guess is you're going to see something on the order of 2 fist widths between Mars and the Pleiades. So go out, measure Mars and the Pleiades, look for those 2 fist widths or so between them, and recognize that Uranus is back this direction, and watch over the coming few weeks as Mars closes down on the Pleiades hard. It's going to be, in a few weeks, it's going to be a great sight. You can predict that's how long it's going to take, because it took a few weeks to get from here to here. It's going to take a few weeks to get from here to here, okay? And so a few weeks from now, we'll remind you to go out. We'll forget. Maybe what were we talking about? That's what we'll say. But we'll remind you to go out and look for Mars as it gets closer and closer to the Pleiades, and maybe it'll be close enough that you can see that in a binocular field of view. So the next few weeks it's going to track that direction. But if you go out every night, every clear night for the next couple of weeks and hold your fists up and try to measure that angular separation, you'll have no doubt, there'll be no doubt in your mind that Mars is moving against the background stars. You'll have seen this, you'll have felt that, you'll know why it was called a wanderer, why it's moving against the background stars. There's just no doubt about it as it closes down there. For the time being, use the Pleiades and Mars as well. Aldebaran is the bright star that's over here, makes more or less an isosceles triangle with Mars and the Pleiades right now. Aldebaran is part of another open star cluster, a group of stars that were born out of the same cloud of gas at the same time, the Hyades. And so the Hyades is here. You should be able to see that nice V of stars, but you've got this nice triangle right here with the Pleiades, Aldebaran, and Mars. If you drop straight down from Mars, the brightest star you come to in this direction is Minkar. And Minkar is part of this quadrilateral of stars. Not a lot of information in there. Any 4 stars that don't form a line form some sort of quadrilateral, I guess. So, but it's part of this quadrilateral of stars that's in the constellation Cetus, the sea monster. And we've talked about Cetus a little bit. We've talked about all of these things a little bit previously. We looked at Diptha one time earlier in one of the earlier videos. I'll act like I remember which video it was and just am not telling you. But so you got to go back and watch all of them again to look to see where we referred to Diptha over here in Cetus. Minkar is the brightest star. Oh, wait, I'll give you time to go back and watch all of those videos. Okay, good. So you saw that reference that we made earlier down over in here. If we think about it next week, I don't know what we're going to want to talk about next week, but we may talk about Cetus again and another star that's down here in Cetus, but I won't give that away yet. So this Minkar is down this direction, and you're looking at Cetus, the sea monster, and it's about that same distance, probably a little bit further from the Pleiades. So you've got the Pleiades, Aldebaran and the Hyades, Mars, and Minkar. Mars, again, is the brightest red object when you look south just after dark. If you go out for me, if I go out about 7 o'clock in the evening, so it's gotten let it get good and dark. Now it's getting dark later and later for us here. But if we go out about 7 o'clock and let it get good and dark, Mars will have moved. Mars will have been straight up and straight south for me an hour to an hour and a half earlier. So it will have moved west a fair little bit, but still pretty much south for me as I go out and find Mars. And the Pleiades then will be approaching straight south on the north-south line that runs directly overhead that we call the meridian. So the Pleiades will be looking more or less straight south for me about 7 o'clock or approximately. So that's our setup. That's what we got this time. We're going to watch Mars moving against the background stars, and particularly the Pleiades star cluster. You got your binoculars? See if you can find Uranus again, and take a look at the Pleiades and enjoy that view of the Pleiades, and go down and look at the Hyades with your binoculars. If you don't have your binoculars, it's still great. And you still go out and you measure that motion of Mars against the background stars and watch it approach the Pleiades over the next few weeks, and enjoy looking at the night sky. Hope everybody has clear skies, and we'll bring you something to look at again next week. Thanks.